Thanks for coming on, man. I didn't want to do this like a show per se. I just sort of wanted to just get coaches on and just talk about training, man. Like I'm so fascinated with other riders and other coaches and what they're doing, and it's always been that sort of best kept secret during when you were racing and all that sort of stuff. What's he doing? I remember like Kamikaze coming out and just horsing people down the first straight. I'm like, dude, what's he doing? He's doing something's going on, right? And he'd have like 185s on and like just revving like a lunatic, and then obviously tank slapping everything and left to right around the track. But it's like, man, he had some crazy leg speeds. Was it, like, is it genetic? Like, what's going on? So I just sort of wanted to create a bit of a platform and just have a chat to different coaches. And obviously, man, the best person I could start off the first cab off the rank would be yourself. And obviously you got a massive history in the sport, race forever. And dude, I just wanted to, pick your brain a little bit, man, like what you're doing. And obviously you got a few riders at the moment and with some, getting some really good results. So yeah, man, I just wanted to have a chat and just, talk shop.
I'm the same. Yeah, I love talking about this stuff, and it's always good when you find someone that's kind of on the same page and wants to have a chat about it. And so let's do it.
So good. So how was your transition from like racing to BMX? How'd you find that?
Well, I mean, obviously my career ended up kind of abruptly and not really on my own terms, and but I think even early on in my racing career, I was always seen myself going into a coaching role. Like I was always pretty fascinated with training and the process of it. And, my mom's a school teacher. So like, we've always lived like a pretty process driven life. And so right from an early age, I was just really interested in training and understanding mainly the physiological side of it. And had some really good mentors like early on with Craig Kolduck at Sassy and then Grant White and, yourself and Sean and Wade and Jared, and just was around a lot of, was kind of always knocking around the older group in Australia. And I think Australia for a lot of the sort of late 90s, early 2000s was ahead of the game from a sprint cycling standpoint, training basis, and pretty much all of our top people got stolen from around the world and kind of made a lot of other programs better around the world. So a lot of that early research came out of Australia, and it was just really interesting to me. I was a pretty competitive person, and that was kind of what I seen as the vehicle to win races, was obviously to train. And so I was always interested in like, what can I do better, and how can we win more races.
Is there anything you did different? Like, is there one thing you did back in the day that you felt made the difference between you and the other riders? Because like you went through a phase, man, where you were just unstoppable, like especially in the States, man, you were killing it. And I remember when you came out and you raced Nerang, like in January, and you just like, you were just so revved, and you just kept tapping the gate, and you just like, I don't know, you just like your reaction was on, but you just kept tapping the gate because you just, I don't know, it was. Yeah, you just look like you're on another level. Everyone's just sort of waiting for Sam to have a lap. It's like, watch Sam.
I mean, to start with, it was obviously just loved the sport, loved, racing and just more so just the racing side of it. I just loved like trying to beat the person next to me. I was a pretty competitive kid. And but looking back more from a training perspective, my mum was pretty switched on with everything from a young age, and we had a pretty structured, program at home with sprints and plyometric things, and right from an early age, and I was into it all, just ate it all up, loved it.
Yeah.
But I think one of the things that I preach a lot now is like everyone definitely gets caught up in the S&C world and like, get stronger and bigger and this and that. And I think there's definitely that element to our sport, but we're definitely more of a speed power sport than a maximal force sport. And I think looking back, like my foundation as a kid, I was just always knocking around on different bikes and rode a 16-inch bike a lot, like right up until I was kind of early teenage years. Like that was my fun bike to go and see how big the trails I could jump, and I was just always spinning it. High cadences. And so I think like from a like a hard wiring standpoint, like I probably trained like some really good sort of quick contraction relaxation, system into my body from a young age, and that was always kind of my strength. Like everyone used to always think I ran way smaller gears than I did and shorter cranks than I actually did, and because I was always looked like I was at such high cadences. But I think from an early age I kind of hardwired some pretty good contractile properties for BMX into my system. I don't know if that's accurate, but that's probably something that I think growing up maybe helped me later on.
Yeah. To be honest, yourself, like there's so many riders that came through that just, they stand out. Like, I don't know what it is, what they do different. Like, I remember Warwick Stevenson, man, like he was just on another level. I remember him he raced in Geelong once. I just stand behind him watching his gait. And it was just so simple and just flat.
Yeah.
And there was nothing to it, but he just put his body in that optimal position to create max leverage and just went, and every gate was just flat and consistent. So,
yeah. And that's really the aim of the game, right? To whatever you've got, whether it be Warwick strength or, you just someone like myself that maybe had like, high frequency was kind of the skill set. Like, it's the ability to apply whatever you got in that very small window that you have in BMX. Like, there's really probably 2 cranks in BMX that are in an optimal range for producing power. And that's, probably the first 2. And then outside of that, you're just in another world of basically what other cycling disciplines would consider your chains off, basically. So, whatever you can apply in that first bit efficiently is and it's not as easily transferred as a lot of people think. Like add 20 kilos to your squat and it just comes over, and it doesn't come over that simple.
What's your so is there one thing that you give to your guys that would that you feel makes the biggest difference with their riding? Or is it a combination?
I always try to lean towards less is more.
Yep.
Definitely within our sport, and I try to keep the play aspect in as much as possible, just given that, especially when I get like newer sort of riders to the training area, just keeping that ability to go to the track and kind of see it as a playground and explore. And the same with the gate start, explore body position, learn to understand, like, when I do this, it feels like that. And because I think you really need a wide range of abilities, because every start hill we start on is different. Like if you go to some of these 5-meter hills now that are just like vertical down, and then you go start on a supercross hill, which is a relatively flat starting gate.
Yep.
And it's about understanding ways that you can kind of manipulate your body position in those different, you might have to lift your pedal up a little more. You may have to use a bit more grip, use a little less grip to not pop up, and things like that. Like I think back to probably my best year over here in 2013 when I won like 20 races that year and training with Sean, and I think we changed something almost every one of those races, whether if it was a handlebar width, handlebar height, how you were approaching the start gate, like because back then we weren't just going to supercross tracks. It was like a supercross track one week and then you're at DeSoto the next week, which is like a 2-foot high start ramp straight down, and then you're on basically an uphill start at the old Oldsmar track, like kind of like Old Narain. And so like all of those different variables require kind of a different approach. It's not track and field where you're starting in the same starting blocks every time and you can do the perfect mechanic every time. So for a lot of people in BMX, that's still the case. And so I try not to get too caught up in micromanaging every little bit of the movement and give them too much to think about in that, but more so understand like how you can, ultimately, yes, we want to lead about head and shoulders, and we want to, get your body weight through that first crank and use, that hip drive to enhance the first pedal and all of that. But how are you going to do that when the constraints completely change? Well, like how can you manipulate that?
Yeah, well, it's better now, right? Like, yourself growing up, like majority of the gates in Australia weren't even air ramp. So we had gravity gates, and then we had different calls. We had different calls on every track. So it was just Barry recording his voice over the box. Remember that? And then it was just like, and then you get to the States, and it took a lot of Australian riders a really long time to get used to the gate over there, because we were, our whole start concept was different, right? Because we were pulling up and trying to get over a gravity gate, where the gate was so quick over there. We were like, oh, we're just standing still. Like I remember racing there. When I come over and raced, it was, dude, I started every race from like 6th or 7th, because my starts were horrible back home, let alone in America. They were twice as bad. So anyway, but
but I will say, like, I think that era, or like my kind of era, which I guess is a little before you, and like I feel like we had pretty good, like I've never really had an issue with a gate start, like learned pretty good mechanics early on, like maybe just had good coaching, but a lot of the hills in Australia were pretty flat and the gates were slow. So you trained a good technique, like nothing was rushed. You trained good power because you're coming off flat hills, long first straights, and it's really easy I think it's really easy to speed up a gate. It's hard to slow it down. So I always felt like when I came over to America, initially it was hard because it was the old ABA cadence. But whenever I went to, like, at a young age, went to those World Cups and stuff, and the gate was really quick all of a sudden, but I was hardwired with good technique. So it's like, you just speed it up a bit. And that was, for me, that was easy, just to speed up and be a bit more reactive. But now what I've found, it going into coaching, like that era below, say me, and even below the next one, it's like their gate starts, like they're not even close. Like they're just like they're completely off. And I think a big part of it has been all these tracks building these 5 meter start hills, like to try to make it like a stepping stone to the 8 meter. And it's not really, like it ruins gate starts, because it really evens everyone up. Like you can have a terrible gate start and ride out of a 5 meter hill and be competitive. You can't have a terrible gate start and be competitive on a supercross hill, because supercross hill, if you put that to the kink on the ground, that's a really flat hill. Like it only drops off after the kink. So that's kind of shocked me a bit, is just like some of those kids coming through, like even like say Isaac now, like that, his kind of age group, like those early 2000 born guys, like gate start wise, they're just, they probably, there wasn't much teaching going on back around that time, or just coming off of those 5 meter hills. But it's just kind of surprised me that era just they can't really grasp the gate start technique.
What about, and so what sort of cues are you giving to these riders? Like, because it's so fast, right? I think this is the hardest thing with gate starts, is it's so fast, right? Like, and then you got to react. You got to create a process in your head, and then if you're obviously been racing for a long time, it's ingrained, right? It becomes instinctual. You're not even thinking about it anymore. So then to change that is really, really hard, and like it takes months and months and months of rewiring and reprogramming. I try and just use really basic cues. Like just, show first, and really try and practice that with sprints as well. So practice it on their block starts, try and get that to transfer across, using the cadence during sprints as well. Sometimes, like how much people, their body posture changes, everything changes as soon as they hear those beeps, right? And if you put them on while people are doing sprints, like I've noticed that just doing sprints, like no cadence, they're just relaxed. Like, oh yeah, this is perfect. As soon as I put the beeps on, all of a sudden they got to move on the first beep, right? Or they're late. That's in their head. They feel like they're late if they don't move on the first beep, or they're not stomping on the pedal on the first beep.
I've tried a bunch of different people. We try different ways to get the message across and things, and different people process things differently. And some can really feel everything that's going on. Some don't have a clue. They just black out, hear the beep and black out.
It's crazy, right?
And go, So I've kind of tried to resort more to just like watch them, see what I'm seeing, and then maybe just change a position thing. Like, if they're not getting through to the handlebars, or like it might just be as simple as, put your pedal up a little bit, point your front toe, or something that's going to create them to get a little more bite on that pedal. That's going to keep them digging through it a bit more. And, or even just things like, let's just repetition of, because, old habits die hard. And in BMX, they're at the track 2-3 times a week. They're probably racing every week. And it's really hard to train technique when you're in competition. So, it might be, if they're not holding a good body position, maybe just start doing uphill sprints for a while to keep the body forward and do those things. And just let that be like building in the background and creating that habit, and not kind of over drilling the gate start too much. Because I find it's really hard to we've got so much technology now. It is easy to slow it down and say, look here at this point and this part of the pedal stroke, you're doing this, but you just need to do this in slow. But then it all happens so quick and so that can all just kind of confuse everything more, and then you can lose them because they go out and there's a second late out the gate and that doesn't work, and throw that out the window. So depending on the personality type and how patient they are to work through it, I've sort of tried those things a bit of just like working at it, whatever the problem is, work at it a bit in the background, more so in sprints. Like I think that's where you can build a really good foundation, because kind of back to what I was saying before, where we grew up on those flatter, slower gates where you could kind of, you would get exposed if your technique was off. You'd get exposed because that would affect the next few pedals on a flat hill. Whereas now the gate's dropping quick and they're coming out of a quarter pipe, off a 5 meter hill, and you don't really get that exposed with a bad start. But then you go up to the Supercross hill, or you come to America and race on these flatter hills, and you do. So I guess a long way of saying that. Definitely try to use exactly what you're saying. A lot of stuff in sprints, like using the gate call, changing the variables from uphill or downhill. You slow things down, with video more so in sprints. I tend to always use the gate call, just because I think it's a perfect place on the sprint block, like to kind of practice setup, talk through. They can feel it all. They're not seeing a gate fall away from them as they're feeling it. Yeah. Because that can shy you away a lot from technical things. Yeah. But ultimately, like, try to just keep intensity in the movement, because that with how quick the gates are dropping now, like you have to be in the ballpark of being in the right body position, but you gotta be moving as well. There's not really the time to be feeling the movement and making it look perfect.
And it's a fine line too, right? Because you want to be relaxed at the same time, so you're reactive, but then you don't want to be tense, right? Because then I did that for years, man. I remember getting on the gate and just trying to break me bars off, and my reaction time was terrible, just because I was so tense. So, and it's funny, I talk to riders now and say, like, you want to be relaxed. I'm like, what do you mean relaxed? First pedal, I got to break the bars off. I'm like, yeah. But before that, you got to be relaxed, because your reaction time's going to go out the window.
Yeah. And I feel like the one I get a lot is everyone wants to tense their abs on the gate or their core. Yeah. And it's like, to me, that's just like, your core will do what it needs to do.
Yeah, like engagement.
It's working all the time. You're walking around, you're sitting, like I have no core. I know that it's not working. Trust me, yours is working.
The only time mine's engaged is when my shirt's off. So constantly just flexing.
Then you got to flex in the gate.
You got to flex me ab, just me one ab.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But outside of that, no.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Yeah, you can talk all day about it, can't you? What about with sprints and stuff? You're talking about variables. So obviously block starts, rolling starts, uphill, downhill, flat. With blocks, do you vary the block? So obviously there's a slide around now. Sean's got the sprint block out. Do you vary that at all? Or just constantly use the slide, or you go back and just use a static block? Do you play with that at all, or don't think about it too much?
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of the time I just used like a static block, but it was always like it had like a smooth surface, so I was always creating a bit of that action on it. Now, I guess I generally will use the slider pretty much most of the time. But I'm normally, if we're going to do sprints, like I want some sort of variable changing. Otherwise, and in my opinion, like they may as well just be on the gate. Like it's from a physiological standpoint. So if we're not, going up a hill or got a bigger gear on, in my opinion, we can probably just do that on the gate, unless, like we said earlier, if it's a technical thing that we're trying to talk through a bit slower. But yeah, not a lot of just like flat race gear sprints, I wouldn't say. I mean, interesting. Just because, in my opinion, not changing you're not really changing the variables of the cadence or anything too much there.
Yeah, so. I've actually looked at it like, I feel like the flat sprint is still a step heavier than gates, obviously, because gates, right? You still got the ramp. Yeah. So it's that fine line, right, between bigger gear going heavier again,
Yep.
uphill going heavier again, and then
Yep.
flat pedals still heavier because you're taking out the backswing.
Right. Yep.
So I guess it's that fine line, right? But then you got to balance it with your gym program. So if you're in the gym going
Yep.
heavy, do you want to go heavy on sprints
Yep.
as well and slow right down, or do you want to try and keep a bit of speed there by just doing some race gear flat sprints while
Yeah.
you're going
No,
heavy in the
exactly.
gym?
And I just find it depends what level you're talking about. Like a lot of the elite guys that already have good technique, like for them to just jump on, say, the sprint block with their race gear on a flat ground, like you kind of have to slow that movement down too much, I think. So like they're better off just to move off of the gate
Yep.
at that point, because of the limitations of that sprint block, like pulling back, and mainly that counter movement action is just kind of too slow, I think.
Yep.
On their normal race setup.
Yep.
Yeah.
I actually slow that right down. We use a lot of static block and just really focus on getting to that position and starting from there, rather than sort of treating it as a gate start. I really try and slow it down, get to that starting position where your shoulders are past the bar, you got that maximum leverage, and then just work on that position. So it's still a strength movement off a static block.
In that position.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not a slide anymore in the sense that I'm not practicing my gate start. I'm just practicing that first initial acceleration off the gate with that static position. So I play around with that a lot, which I find really good. I mean, I remember Warwick stuff. Like, remember Warwick Stevenson? I keep bringing him up, but like his whole training regime was: I go to the gym, I squat 4 plates Monday, I go and do some block starts on Tuesday, and then get ready for Friday. Like that was his training schedule.
Yeah.
So,
and I guess when you're someone like him, like where you actually are that strong, like he's going in the gym and he's maximally, I guess, stimulating his system. I think what I've found a lot is, people will hear that and they're kind of underdeveloped compared to, say, Warwick, and they go in the gym and they're squatting heavy, but they're still not squatting as heavy as maybe what their legs are capable of, because there's a technical element to squatting as well.
Yep.
So you're just kind of, at that point, then they're just kind of slowing everything. Like they're not overstimulating themselves in the gym really.
Yeah.
But they can't go any heavier because their back can't handle it, or they'll hurt themselves.
Yep.
And then, so yeah, that works for bigger, stronger, developed guys, obviously, like what Warwick was. But ultimately, that's kind of what power is in cycling, really, right? Train both ends of the torque cadence curve, and high force, high velocity.
Is there something in the gym that you do that you find transfers really well to the bike?
I generally like to work more towards just concentric sort of starting strength movements, so like a deadlift or a step up or something that's from zero, because cycling is just a concentric action.
Yeah.
But unless I'm trying to put mass on someone, then obviously squatting, and there's a ton of options where you can bring in that eccentric component to try to put a bit more mass on. But someone that's already relatively strong and developed, like Anthony or someone like that we don't really want to add any more mass at this point. I think the deadlift is like the king of all lifts, but that obviously you have to have a pretty strong system overall. I just like it because there's a grip component. I think the back, and obviously the glutes are more involved than a lot of people think in a gate start. It's simple. It's bilateral. It's just simple. Pick up, put as much neural drive as you can into the system, and just recruit everything, and then get the specificity side of it on the bike.
Yeah. Deads are great. They're very underrated, I feel like. Do you go straight bar, or do you play with hex bar? Or I actually prefer the straight bar to the hex bar.
Yeah, I was always straight. I never used a trap bar. I use it a bit now because some people just want to use it, and if I'm not with a lot of stuff sort of from a distance now, so you're not with them to teach a proper deadlift over time, and so I'm okay to use a trap bar then, but I was always much preferred just a regular conventional deadlift,
because all of a sudden you got that postural chain engaged. I always found the hardest thing was that in the gym, like I get strong in the gym, but then that transfer, I just couldn't feel that transfer. Sometimes like that hand foot connection, like I'd stomp and pull on my bars or whatever, and I didn't feel like there was a really strong connection coming through. I'm playing around with Zerches a lot at the moment. Zercher squats.
Sorry.
I'm playing around with Zerches a lot at the moment. Like horrible. They're just a horrible exercise, but they're so good because you go back to everything else and everything else is easy. So
I've seen a lot of them. It's an interesting lift. Like holding a barbell in your elbow joints like that.
Yeah, and it's constantly folding you, right? It's just constantly trying to fold you in half. The mindset's changed these days, right? Like I was very anti-pad back in the day, but as soon as I'm doing Zerches, man, that bar pad's going straight in there. I'm like, nah, I've got to find something to hold me bloody elbows together. So
I think it's just a lot of it with any lift is just allowing that transformation period. Like, what is the problem that you're trying to solve? And like, it's not a direct transfer ever. Like people give I often say, like, if the squat and the deadlift knew how much credit we gave it all, they'd blush. Like, It's not that. It's just not instant like that. So I think understanding what the problem is that you're trying to solve, like, so if you've got data and you can see like, hey, this person fires and produces torque at a perfect time, but there's just not enough there, then sure. The goal is go in the gym, get stronger, maybe, put on a little bit of mass because that, mass in the right areas is going to equal power. But even that, like by the time you put it on and then there's like a neurological system in all of us, right? That has to then rewire that to fire every, 500 milliseconds or whatever that first pedal is. So you got to allow time for that rewiring process to happen. And also understand that in the moment when you're doing those lifts, like you're causing damage that is affecting the muscle's ability to contract quick and relax quick. So you're actually, you're definitely taking a step back to hopefully take two forward. But I think people underestimate like how long that damage lingers around. Like there's some good studies like on eccentric stuff and just how like there can be eccentric damage for up to 8 weeks. That like you can't even feel 100%, or you wouldn't feel it at all, but it's there and it's affecting that contraction relaxation rate. So I guess I just come at it from a point of view of just understand, like, first of all, stripping it back to like, what is the problem that we're trying to solve, and try to be precise about it.
It's I went off and did some powerlifting for a little while after racing, and you definitely notice that just going maximal lifts every week. You just get fried, and then you sort of do a bit of reading, and then guides are doing like max lifts every second week. I'm like, oh, well, that makes probably a little bit more sense, right? So it's a little bit more manageable. Do you go like super specific in the gym? Like I know some coaches try and create an exercise that looks just like BMX pedaling. So I'm going to do this exercise. Like, do you play with that much, or is it just general strength? Strength is strength, right?
Yeah, no, I try to be pretty broad in the gym. So it's either, the purpose is either like neural drive force or putting muscle on, and then just go back to that, how do we do that? And it doesn't need to look anything like the bike. In fact, if it does look like the bike, it's like, why aren't you on the bike? Because that could just be that could just be done there. So I guess the only thing that you could maybe say is somewhat specific is when you do some unilateral stuff and train things individually that way, or think of it in a concentric action, because that's what cycling is. But even that, you're not doing it because it's trying to replicate anything.
What about like knees forward movements and stuff like that, like knees over toes stuff? Do you play around with that a little bit?
I haven't a lot. I've seen the knees over toe guy and seen some of his stuff. Had to do it. I shouldn't say I haven't. I did a little bit of. Anthony had like some knee issues at the end of his career, so did a little bit of that stuff. Pretty low weight, and just trying to get some blood in there, really, because I just had it's just no cartilage left in his knee. But I haven't done a ton of it.
I towards the end, I suppose it was, but I was just squatting twice a week. That was my jam. I squat twice a week. I don't know how good it was for me, but my knees were horrible, man. I had the worst knees, and I was just pumping Voltaren in like they were Tic Tacs, and But what I was doing when I was squatting, I was sitting my hips back a lot. And then
Yeah.
I started playing around with punching my knees a little bit further forward. And then straight away, dude,
Yeah.
knees felt so much better. So
Yeah.
we actually do play around with a lot of slant stuff, a lot more quad activation, and find it.
Getting heels elevated.
Yeah. So like a slant board, like squatting with your heels elevated.
Yeah, no, I've done some of that, like with a front squat with some athletes, like to get a bit more range of motion. And I guess I was thinking of it more just to make sure we're hitting the quads more and make sure that get a bit more range of motion, because generally hips and ankles are pretty tight on cyclists, so it just kind of allows them to get that full range a bit more. But,
yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's good fun, huh?
Yeah, but the gym's great in that perspective. Like, there's so many ways, and there's so much information out there to attack what you're trying to do. So yeah, definitely avoiding the specificity side of it, but once again, coming back to like, what's the problem you're trying to solve, really.
What are you doing with younger riders? Like, obviously you're saying you got a lot of sort of juniors coming at you now, and creating training programs. Like I help a few younger riders as well. What sort of stuff are you doing with those guys?
How young? I guess, like, what's young?
Yeah, well, I guess, what are you training? Are you training 10-year-olds, 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds?
I don't really have any like that young at the moment.
You got your little fella on some bands yet? What do you?
Yeah, not yet. He's just crawling.
I hear him screaming out in the background, so I just like chuck him in. Get him working, mate. Get him working.
Yeah, he will be. Who's the youngest that I've got right now? They're probably all like sort of 15-ish.
Yeah, okay.
So they're kind of getting into that age where, like, starting to get in the gym a bit, and it can be pretty broad at that point. You know, you're just introducing them, trying to, get mechanics right, accumulate some volume, starting to try to get them strong. And it's actually a really fun time, because if you do it right, like, you kind of get a lot of bang for your buck pretty quick. Like, you start lifting from scratch, and like you're pretty much stronger in the first couple of weeks. Like, you feel stronger. So
it's crazy, right?
It's a good age to be training people, because you can almost do no wrong as long as you're being somewhat safe.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't have any real young kids at the moment.
I used to coach when I had the gym. I was doing some circuit stuff with some younger kids, like sort of under 12s, and it was just all bodyweight stuff, man. And you'd be surprised how many kids just can't do a squat, whether they're sitting inside all day just on their tablet or on their own phone or whatever. And then back, obviously, when everyone was wearing clips, their hamstrings were so tight, couldn't touch their toes. The mobility was horrible, and they were just like little old ladies trying to squat. They're like, their whole body's crunched over. I'm like, what are you doing? They're like, just straighten your back. I can't do that. Like, so a lot of the stuff we were doing back then was just a lot of mobility stuff, like, and just basic movements to teach kids balance. I guess balance and mobility was our biggest thing. So we do a lot of BOSU stuff.
Yeah, I do have like a thing on my website called the W Club. So that's kind of like anyone can sign up in it. There's still mostly older kids in it at the moment, but like, I've had a couple of young ones come through that. And the whole thing with that is, it's just like, you don't need any equipment other than your bike and your body, basically. So within that, same sort of thing. A lot of body weight circuits and like trying to get even just kids going down, just doing the eccentric portion of a pistol squat and things like, the knees start buckling in, and just learning to control and make that connection, like brain to quad, hip extension to all the different kind of movements that you will you kind of need as a foundation, but also that you'll use on the bike.
What's your biggest weakness you see with riders these days coming up, like those junior riders? What sort of weaknesses do you see? Is it leg speed, do you think, or is it strength? Is it mobility? Like, what are these kids you think they need to improve?
It's definitely like the technical aspect of the gate start, like understanding the cues and just how to manipulate the different parts of that movement.
Yep.
So I think the gate start for sure. And then also, like, I don't even know if it's a weakness, but like the difference of just not really understanding like how they do what they do. So sometimes it's a strength, because they'll just get out there and they just do it. Like, I'll just go and jump and do it. But I do think it's a good skill set to understand like how you get your bike to that position, how you can get it to this position, how you can, hold a manual there, what you think about, and it can be a catch-22 because like you get to the top of sport and they're trying to tell you not to think. And then, but I think early on, if you can have a good understanding of how you do what you do,
yeah, for sure,
it'd be a really good skill to have. I mean, I trained Taya Rufus, and like, she's pretty much, when I started working with her, and her dad told me basically like she just taught herself how to ride like watching YouTube.
Yeah,
which is crazy. Like just never went to a clinic or anything. And like she's phenomenal on the bike. But yeah, just taught herself how to do it all from just watching YouTube.
That's how they do it.
And she's kind of one of those ones that like sometimes I'll ask her like, when you did that, like how do you I don't know, I just do it. And same with like the gate start. Like she has a great gate start, but doesn't like have a lot of like I do this, then I do this, then I do that.
Yeah, there's no process. It's just instinctual.
Just trained a great habit and just bang goes and intensity into it. Which if you have the right technique is probably that's an asset.
How many good riders have you spoken to and asked them how do you do that? Like, how do you do that, or how did you jump that, or how do you manual that, or how did your gate start? Like they go, I don't know. Just it's. It doesn't always mean.
They'll say my gates suck. Oh, like I'm just off today. I'm hitting the gate, and I'm like, oh, what are you feeling? What are you feeling? Your hips coming through, or like, are you feeling that you're at this point? And like, oh, I don't know. Like I'm just hitting it.
Yeah.
And so when you get to those situations, it's hard to make adjustments on the fly.
Yeah.
If you don't really have that understanding of like, I remember being at races and being on the phone with Sean, and it's like, oh, this gate's flat and it's dropping slow, and it's like, all right, well, adjust your grip tension a little bit, or like raise your pedal, when you feel yourself, grip a bit later, and like, and I could process all of that in the moment and feel it and make those adjustments on the fly to execute.
Yeah, actual physical things you can adjust make a difference, right? And people underestimate breathing too, man. Breathing's so important. Like just to lower heart rate, try and bring the anxiety down a little bit, and especially when you got all these guys next to you, so you're so worried about everyone else.
Yeah, and you don't realize, like a lot of people, they're just holding their breath and you don't even know it. Yeah, like I find myself, I'll do it, go around the house, and it's like I'm not breathing.
I was throwing out a cue. Like it's funny. I've had this conversation with a few different people, especially online, and just saying how I started with my guys like breathing in during the call and then breathing out while you're waiting for the beeps, right? So it's and it sort of helps you relax a little bit and be a little bit more reactive. People go, what do you mean? I hold my breath. I was like, well, how long are you going to hold your breath for, mate? I don't know if I can hold my breath that long. So
yeah, an analogy I always use is like, well, try to hold your breath, tense your bicep, and punch a boxing bag, and it's like you can't do anything.
Yeah,
like, you just
That's crazy.
I mean, I worked on that a lot, and later in my career, like I used to have a thing that I would listen to my breath in the gate, which is kind of like almost like an out of body thing. But the reason for doing it was like the cue that I was trying to get to, which was almost just like a super relaxed floating feeling on the gate. And that was kind of the trigger that got me there. It was like this whole funnel effect from the time I was in staging to the time I go on the gate to get to that point. And that's what I think people underestimate of like, unless you're a monk that lives like that every second of your life, like it's really hard to get into those states, and you have to have a process of how you're going to get there, like
and replicate.
And replicate, and that's where like you can practice that in sprints and all these things, and having like a robust routine. And then there's the challenge of having a routine that's flexible, because everywhere we go is a little bit different. And there's I fall into that trap as well of like, oh, I've got to sit on this crack and think like this, and then it's like, oh, someone else is on the crack. Like, what am I going to do before the race? And so all of that stuff, like having that funnel effect down, I know that was priceless for me, and something I've probably tried to preach a lot but people underestimate that stuff, and they don't want to train that stuff in sprints. They don't want to, on Tuesday night gates, they don't want to go through the funnel effect. Yeah,
because they're all sitting there hanging out with their mates, talking crap, and like, hey, let's go ride the third straight. Yeah, let's do that. And it's like, well, that's cool, but like you're here to train, man. Like it's cool to be sociable, and there's that element, like, right? There's that element of sociables. You want to be sociable, you want to be friends, but man, I'm here to train. Like I remember just backing up gates. I go to gates and just back them up. I'll be there doing feel like doing 40 gates. And I'm sprinting to the first turn every one. Like, you just had a different mindset back then. And now kids do 10 gates and they're happy. I'm like, okay. But
so they're happy because they've done the number that they went there to do. Like, but that's the thing that they're thinking about. And it's like, I don't really care if you do 8, 10, 12. I don't care. But do your process.
Yeah.
And if you can only handle doing your process 6 times and they're good, well, great. Let's get out of there. Like, that's just more. But yeah, it's not. I guess it's not sexy and it's not measurable and it's not all those things. But once you learn and you see the outcomes you can get from it and the foundation you can build to be robust in any sort of competitive environment, then you start to appreciate it and you want to do that routine.
It's that consistency, right? It's the consistency it brings from having a repeatable process that you got to practice, man. It's like everything. You got to practice it. Like it's just as important as practice manual in that third straight, right? You got to practice this start routine. So when you get to a race and you're under pressure, it's the Worlds, and I've got him here, I got Joris there, I got whoever else is next to me. Yeah. If I can't focus on myself, like, you're done. And that's what I think that's what separates the really, really good riders from the guy that just never made it, you know what I mean? A bit like myself.
Yeah, the people that you see. And that's the thing, like at that level, say the strength level, the muscle mass, whatever it is that you need, the cadence, all of that, like, they're all pretty much the same. Yeah. Like, you could put them all in a lab, that'll all be around, somewhere between 25 and 30 watts per kilo. And, they could all spin a, unloaded bike up to 230 plus RPM. And, they'd have all those pretty similar attributes, but the ones that can harness that process and know how they do what they do are the ones that are able to continually perform. Yeah.
Do you preach that a lot to obviously you preach it a lot to your kids? Like, how do they, well, kids, I keep saying kids, but they are kids, I guess. How do they respond to it? I guess, is there any way you can monitor it? Like, hey, are you doing your process on practice night? Are you doing your process on gates?
Yeah. It's one of those things that's really hard. It's really hard to measure it, and especially when you're not in person with someone and like their day to day to really go through it. It is hard, but all you can do is have a conversation around it and keep bringing it up and keep talking it through and they'll have a good experience at a training session or a race somewhere along the line, because these things do work and then they buy into it. But that's probably one thing I've learned, especially in my coaching journey more recently, where like you're not with someone every day. Like obviously with Elise and with Anthony, and I was with them every day. And like when I was training my best years, like Sean was with me every day. And so like you'd have those conversations on the fly and you'd figure things out on the fly and you'd be held accountable on the fly. And whereas now it's a bit more, you kind of go through a training block and everyone wants to say everything's great, feeling good.
It's almost like they're scared to say that they're having an off day or they're just not feeling right or something not happening with their training. They're just like, I don't know. It's weird, right? Is it maybe it's an insecurity thing? They just don't.
I feel a bit off, but I'll be all right.
Yeah,
Talk about what you feel a bit off. And
it's hard. All right.
So so I guess I just try to have a conversation around it, try to bring it up. Try to talk it through and reflection, I think, is the best time and where you get the most response from it. So like having a really robust reflection sort of process that you go through with them, that's I think where I've had the most success, because then you've got that they're willing to be a bit more vulnerable and honest at that point, because the race is over and you can they open up a bit more, and then you can kind of talk through, okay, well, maybe that led to this and this and this and this, and now let's try this next time around. Let's work on this in the next bit, and then they're sort of excited to work on it. But definitely that's been a learning curve for me, is just the patience of teaching, really. It's like you have information in your head that you just want to like plug in the USB and download to someone and give it to them and let them go off and be successful, but it doesn't work like that. Like you have to kind of watch them fail and then have the conversations and keep working through the process with them.
How do you go with like the I guess the losses, right? I guess that's the hard part. You're having a loss and rebuilding the ego, I guess, and rebuilding the rider's mindset going into the next race, or like even just having the ability to delete the last race. You know, you in the middle of a race day, you have a crappy first moto or a crappy second moto, and having the ability just to say, okay, well, that race is gone. Let's focus on the next one. Yeah. Like that's a strength in itself as well, right?
Yeah. And I think the same, back to what we were just talking about, like when you understand how you do what you do and what your process is, like generally you can do a pretty good quick reflection on the fly, and it can be really easy to let go because you're like, that didn't work because I didn't do X, Y, and Z. Or I did that really well, but I just got hit in the corner. Shit happens. Like, all right, reflect. That's done. Now I know this is working. Like I'll go back and do it again, you know, and not, my good mate Alistair Clarkson used to have a saying called system over circumstance. And I really like that because it's like, if you have a system that you know works, yes, it's gonna have, everything fails every now and then. We're always gonna have little glitches here and there, but that system's pretty robust 90% of the time. So like we're going to lean on that over whatever that circumstance was that got in the way.
And that's it, man. It's racing, isn't it? It's so unpredictable. And I think that's what we love about the fact that it's chaos, right?
I mean,
as soon as that gate drops, man, it's absolute chaos, you know, so, and anything can happen. So
I would love to be in a more controlled sport, to be honest.
Is there a more controlled sport that's fun? You know what I mean? Like that's the whole idea.
It'd be nice to have some lanes or something.
That's why I just can't get away from the sport, man. Like I had a break probably the last 8 years, and just keeps bringing me back, man. I feel like I know so much about the sport. Like I just want to. I truly enjoy coaching and just passing it on and just seeing the improvements. You know, I think I've sort of like. Obviously my career is done and dusted, but I sort of think back, you know, I'm a bit like that, you know, I remember back then when I was this good, but I sort of think back to when, I wish I did this, you know, I wish I did this. I wish I knew, the age old question I always have is, I wish I knew then what I know now sort of stuff. So,
for sure.
But back then we just didn't nobody knew. I think part of it too, the sport was so new that nobody knew, you know what I mean? Like,
no, we're all been learning a bit on the fly and making it up as we go. And I think the mystery of it keeps you coming back as well. Like there is still so much mystery and
we're going to just
performance variable and it's always changing. Like, I mean, the track that Kyle and Warwick won on back in 01 compared to now. And there's still so many elements of their process that apply now, but then the sport keeps evolving and keeps changing and
chicken wing crank arms, we'll bring them back.
The chicken wing crank arms,
remember them? Did you ever see those cranks? People were riding cranks and they were like an L shape, and did you ever see those? Oh mate,
I don't think they might have been before me.
Might have been before you. There's some old school.
Yeah,
cool. All right, man. All right, well I'll leave you alone. It sounds like you got your hands full there with Bubs, and Elise is doing pretty good in the background there, which is awesome. So, but thanks so much for coming on, man. It's awesome. I really like it. I love it. It's
no worries. Thanks for having me. It's fun to chat.
Yeah. Hopefully we can get a few more.
I admire the work you're doing. You're good at putting it out there. And I'm no good at the technical aspect of putting the videos out or getting this stuff out. But you're doing good and putting some good stuff out there.
Yeah, awesome, man. Appreciate that. All right, buddy. Yeah. Thanks for coming on, mate. And look, hopefully I'll get you back on soon anyway, man. We'll have a bit more of a chat and I'll think of a cool topic we can talk about. And then, if we've got anyone's got any questions, I guess I can chuck them in the comments and we can address them on the next one.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Sounds good, mate.
No worries,
good to
buddy.
see you.
You too, buddy.